This episode of Did Y'all See That contains serious subject matter discussing recent tragedies that have occurred in the U.S. Please take discretion in watching and take care of yourself. Tonight, we're reviewing Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Fun and campy, yet controversial and not for everyone. The FPS Fallout series, why these games used to be regarded as some of the best of all time, and why the later ones aren't anymore. And finally, we'll be inviting a guest on to discuss tragedy and social media, how technology has changed the way we react to tragedy. This is Did Y'all See That? Okay. Hello, and welcome everyone to Did Y'all See That? I am your host, Ngozi Mai, the Jingu VTuber. Welcome. Thank you all for tuning in. We have so much to get through tonight, but here's the rundown first. This show is split up into two 1-hour segments, Pop Your Culture, where we discuss various pop culture from the past month, and Talk Gozy to Me, where we'll invite on a special guest onto the show for an interview as well as a hot button topic. We feel free to comment away throughout the show. I cannot promise that I'm going to be reading too closely on the chat, but I promise I will try. There will be spoilers, folks. There will be spoilers during the Pop Your Culture part of the show. If you see this image pop up on your screen, please assume that we might be talking about something that you could be spoiled on, especially the subject matter tonight being a movie that just came out a couple of weeks ago. So I recommend muting the stream by default and shooting a message in the chat asking what we're talking about first before unmuting. When the image goes away, you're safe to unmute. At the end of the show, I'll be going over any questions that you submit. Just type in !Q&A for a link and feel free to submit questions as we go. With all of that out of the way, let's get started with Pop Your Culture. Ow, you bubs, pop your culture like this. Tell me about it, goes you work that shit. Ow, you bubs, pop your culture like this. Tell me about it, goes you work that shit. Alrighty, y'all. The first segment of the show is Pop Your Culture, and the first segment of that segment is going to be In Case You Missed It. In this segment, we're going to go over the spark notes of the notable pop culture news from the past month, starting with Outlander. Season 6 of Outlander ended tragically short this last month, and it's all because of COVID, guys. It's like COVID totally fucked up the production, and it made it so that we only got 8 episodes, and it made it so we got left on like the worst cliffhanger ever. Sadly, we're gonna have to wait a whole other year to find out what happens to Claire in her murder trial, but next season will be longer than this one, longer than the normal season to compensate for the shorter one. So yay us. Oh my goodness, Kendrick Lamar's new album, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, dropped this month. And I'm going to be honest with you, I really did not enjoy it that much in the first listen, but after a couple of more listens, I was hooked, which is pretty on brand for Kendrick. Like, it just takes a couple of tries to kind of understand what he's kind of going for. Some notable songs on the album, at least ones that popped out to me, was We Cry Together, which is a song where Kendrick Lamar and actor Taylor Page are like talking mad shit to each other in like a couples fight, and it gets heated. It's stressful as fuck, but I honestly cannot stop listening to that song. Die Hard is another really good one that's gonna have you kind of jigging and dancing in your seat, but also having some feels because you're thinking about Kendrick Lamar's bars talking about his insecurities and his past traumas and relationships. Also, not on this album, it's actually a single, but it's a notable new song from Kendrick. It's The Heart Part 5. It's a really cool music video. Check it out if you get a chance, where he's it's the camera's on him the entire time, and it deep fakes his face into different Black actors and Black musicians like Kanye West and Will Smith and Nipsey Hussle. It's fucking cool as shit. So I recommend checking it out. Ooh, season 13 of Apex Legends has dropped. Oh, and it's controversial to say the least. From the very welcome addition of Newcastle, aka Jackson Williams, the brother of Bangalore, to the harshly underwhelming shakeup of Stormpoint, the map that everybody still hates, to the very mixed reaction to Ranked Reloaded, which prides placement over kill points, or KP, in games, and it very greatly rewards 3-stack teams that are all teaming up with each other, people that know each other, and it harshly punishes duos and solo queuers. So I'm certainly going to give it a try this month. We'll see how it goes. I will keep you posted. In other Apex news, Apex Mobile also launched this month on iOS and Android, and it is a much appreciated breath of fresh air. The controls feel clunky as shit because it's on a phone and you're doing touchscreen. Honestly, I cheated and I use I use a fucking controller. It's a lot better when you use a controller. But honestly, the heart is still there. It still feels like Apex. You're on the OG World's Edge map, and it's got a cool way of earning loot in the game. Like, it's a kind of an unlock as you play kind of style where you can still buy legends and buy like cosmetics and stuff, but you can also just like unlock it just from playing the game. So I thought that was pretty cool. It brought a casual feeling back to Apex that I feel like has been missing for me for a really long time, and I'm excited to see where it goes. Poppy Playtime Chapter 2 released this month, much to my surprise. I was so surprised. I knew it was coming, but it just kind of dropped out of nowhere. This was a really great improvement over the Chapter 1, to be honest. Like, Chapter 1 I enjoyed because it was so scary, but it was very short. It felt like kind of a flash game, you know? So this was a breath of fresh air in that it felt like a full game. It was like a solid 2 or 3 hours of gameplay, beginning, middle, and end. It had great puzzles. The atmosphere was scary as hell, and the ending chase was very scary. So I'm excited as hell for Chapter 3. Kung Fu Hustle 2 was announced after 15 years. I actually think this was announced like a couple of months ago, but I just found out about it this month. And this is a sequel to the cult classic wuxia comedy by Stephen Chow, who starred and directed in it, and actually starred and directed in another film called Shaolin Soccer, which is also great. Chow says that we can expect lots and lots of new characters and new actors, and I am super fucking stoked about this. Ooh, She-Hulk. A trailer for the new Disney Plus MCU show She-Hulk dropped this month to a very overly entitled fan base, and I must say, because they had a whole lot to say about how bad the CGI was of the leading lady pictured here, Jennifer Walters, who was played by the orphan black star Tatiana Maslany. Personally, I'm not too judgmental on a CGI studio because, you know, they put out 8 TV shows, 8 whole ass TV shows and 6 movies over the last 2 fucking years in a goddamn pandemic. So, okay, boohoo that she looks a little bit CGI. Who cares? It's probably going to be great. So, come on, fans, take what you can get, folks, because we have been given a lot. She-Hulk is hitting streams in August, and I'm excited. Finally, the release date for the next installment of the Call of Duty series, Modern Warfare 2, was announced for October 28th, 2022. The much anticipated sequel to 2019's warmly received Modern Warfare is set to be the only Call of Duty game to be released for the next 2 years. So it's going to have to hold our attention for a really long time. Personally, I fucking loved Modern Warfare. I logged hundreds of hours into that game. So if this game plays anything like that, I'm fucking sold. And that, folks, is In Case You Missed It. Let's move on to our next segment in Pop Your Culture, Gozy Stands. In this segment, I will talk about something that I watched this month that I fucking loved. And holy shit, guys, the biggest of spoiler alerts, folks. If you have not seen this movie, please mute the stream because I'm about to spoil the fuck out of it. We're talking about Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. This movie was so entertaining. It was so cheesy and so campy, and it had horror elements, and it broke the fourth wall. And all of this character is extremely on brand for the director of the movie, Sam Raimi. If you've seen any of his other movies, like the Evil Dead series or even the Spider-Man movies from 20 years ago, you'll know that this is very much on brand for him. I was grinning the entire 2-hour runtime. Let's dive on in. Let's start with Wanda. Making Wanda the villain of the film was a bold choice, but it kind of made sense. It made total sense, to be honest. Many fans rejected this choice because they felt that it was unfair for her to receive such a quote unquote ending. But this fan is actually on board with how they handled the arc. Let's look at the end of WandaVision. At the end of WandaVision, we saw our favorite sorceress feeling guilty about enslaving a whole ass town for who knows how long. And all of this to just live out her delusional fantasy with her lost love Vision, who, let's be real, like, she killed Vision with her bare fucking hands because people told her she had to, and then it ended up not mattering anyway because Doctor Strange gave Thanos the Time Stone. So right then and there, fucking Wanda has a little bit of bad blood with Doctor Strange because in her eyes, she's saying, it's your fucking fault my man is dead. It's your fucking fault I had to kill him and it didn't even matter, right? So we last see Wanda in her namesake show, in her post-credit scene. If you guys recall, she is studying the Darkhold, which is the single most evil book in the multiverse that perverts and corrupts everything it touches. So she becomes obsessed with finding a way to make her two sons, who she birthed in her delusion, real. So it only makes sense by the time we get to Multiverse of Madness, she fucking found a way to do it. And, you know, shocker, it's probably not a nice thing to do because she got it from the fucking Necronomicon. It's an evil book. So of course she's evil. I don't know. I don't know why people were just so shocked about this. Like, this makes total fucking sense. I don't know. I get it. I feel like they're probably drawing back to Daenerys in Game of Thrones and how that her becoming evil kind of felt like it came out of nowhere. But this made total fucking sense, honestly. Wanda is a character of compounding tragedy and loss. From the moment we first saw her, everything she loves has been taken from her, and she does not get a happy ending. And, you know, guys, that's okay. I know we see in Marvel movies, especially because Disney owns them, we are all so used to seeing la-di-da, happy ending, every happy thing is happy ever after, blah-blah-blah. So when we have a character that doesn't get a happy ending, it kind of hit different, you know? It kind of do. So I don't know. I can see why it doesn't sit right with fans because it's sad, you know? It's sad that she literally can never get any happiness. But it's a valid way to frame a character, you know? And it's not like she doesn't get a redemption arc, because she does. In the end, she does the right thing, you know? Not to mention, I think another reason why people are, maybe not happy about it is because she, quote unquote, died. But guys, what this movie and what No Way Home did was introduce the multiverse to the MCU. Death means shit. Death doesn't mean shit, bro. Because for every Wanda, for our Wanda in our Earth, there's a million more Wandas. So just because our Earth's Wanda died doesn't mean that she ain't gonna come back later. Which kind of brings us into the next topic. The Illuminati, y'all. Woo! On Earth 838, we got Mordo with the dreads. We got Black Bolt from Inhumans. If y'all watch that ABC TV show, which I didn't because it was bad, but I mean, that's still pretty cool. It's the same actor and everything. Anson Mount reprising the role. We got Captain Carter from the Disney Plus animated series What If, which everybody in the world, they were like, Gozy, What If is not canon. That's why we hate it, because it's not canon. It's an anthology. It doesn't matter if there's no implications. Bitch, I called it. I fucking called it. I knew fucking What If was gonna be fucking canon, because we saw Captain Carter, and we even see another character that we're gonna talk about in a minute. What else we got? We got Maria Rambeau as Captain Marvel, which you might recall her as Carol Danvers' friend from the 2019 Captain Marvel film. She's also the mother of Monica Rambeau, which we saw gain her new photon powers in WandaVision. And I think that we're going to see Monica Rambeau in the upcoming Miss Marvel show too. Y'all, we got Professor motherfucking Xavier in the house, officially ushering in the X-Men into the MCU. And finally, and probably the most shocking reveal for all of the fans in the theater, we got Mr. Fantastic himself, Reed Richards, portrayed by the much fan-casted John Krasinski, officially introducing the Fantastic Four into the MCU. Holy shit, this whole little scene revealing these people one after the other, everybody in the theater was jizzing at the same time. It was the most fanist of fan service. We were all hollering until literally 5 minutes later when Wanda came in and fucking murdered all of them. All of them, like straight up out of Invincible. It was actually a little fucking violent for an MCU movie, if I really should say. But it really fits Sam Raimi. It was so, like, that's why I couldn't help but to laugh as it happened, because I'm like, Sam Raimi would do some shit like this. The ultimate troll that could only be achieved by him. Fear not, fans of the world. Remember what I just said, the multiverse is in the MCU. So every single one of these characters are almost certainly going to reappear later in phase 4 and phase 5. They may not be the same characters, because that's the magic of the multiverse. It can be anybody, but these characters have been officially introduced. It was a big troll, but it was also it had really heavy implications on the MCU as a whole. Speaking of what if being fucking canon, we see we return to the universe where Strange Supreme, or at least a version of him, destroyed his own universe and everyone in it, presumably in his quest to save his only multiversal love, Christine, from perishing from the very same car accident that our Doctor Strange was maimed in years ago. There was a really cool fight scene between our Doctor Strange and this evil Doctor Strange that leveraged music. So Danny Elfman is the composer of the film, and they used his score as physical magical attacks, like music notes being shot at each other. I'm gonna be honest, I actually was cringing like a motherfucker when I saw this in the film, but I really admire the uniqueness, because I can definitely say I've never seen that done before, but I was actually cringing a little bit. I'm like, okay. Oh Lord, America Chavez. She was a fun addition to the MCU, but the biggest thing that excites me about her is that the MCU is really starting to round out our youth roster very nicely for what I can only assume is setting the MCU up for the arrival of the Young Avengers. Let's talk about who we've seen so far. We've seen Wiccan and Speed, who are Wanda's sons. We've seen Kid Loki, who was in the Loki show. We've seen Kate Bishop's Hawkeye from the Hawkeye show. We've got the upcoming Miss Marvel coming out. And then we got America Chavez rounding out that team. There's some that we could still see coming forward, like Iron Lad, who is his real identity is a young version of Kang the Conqueror, a character we also got introduced to in Loki. There's Prodigy, who is actually part of the X-Men. He could come later. And also potentially Cassie Lang, who as Stature, who is Ant-Man's daughter, who we've also already seen in the MCU. So this is really fucking exciting. I can only assume that this is what's in the books, because they keep adding these characters. It's becoming pretty obvious. The post-credit scene introduced us briefly to Clea, who is in the comics Doctor Strange's wife and his true love. So we only caught a glimpse of her in inviting Doctor Strange back into the multiverse to reverse the incursion he caused, which an incursion is effectively when the universe is like collapsing in on itself. So though, I'm really excited to see the lovely and most badassest bitch Charlize Theron in the MCU. I was wondering when they were going to bring her into the MCU, and it's looking like this character is here to stay. So very exciting stuff. All in all, I very much enjoyed Doctor Strange. I enjoyed it a lot. It was extremely exciting to see what these implications, like it really meant a lot for the implications on the MCU as a whole. It was controversial. It's not for everybody. Not everybody's going to be cool with the choices it made. They were very bold, but I really admire them for making them. It's very exciting for the future. We're going to get new heroes. We're going to get new solo movies, new team-up movies. And honestly, I'm going to call it now, y'all. Characters that we once thought were dead are probably going to make a return because the multiverse is now open. And that is Gozy Stands, y'all. The next segment we're going to talk about is We Need to Talk. In this segment, we take a closer look at something that was once great, but went awry somehow. And then we're going to speculate on its future. And the spotlight this month is on the Fallout series. The reason for this is because I've been replaying the Fallout series, so I felt like I'm going to fucking talk about them. Particularly the FPS games in the series. So the ones that are out of scope are Fallout 1 and 2. We're not talking about those. Let's start with Fallout 3. The first FPS game in the Fallout series, and it established one hell of a legacy. Let's start with the good. Fallout 3 had an incredibly compelling plot and a very clear protagonist origin story. So let's dive into it. You grow up and seemingly spend your whole life living in Vault 101, which is one of many underground bunkers created in the late 21st century as a protective measure in case a worldwide nuclear war happened. And guess what? A worldwide nuclear war happened, and now all of the residents of Vault 101 have spent centuries living their lives there, generation after generation. Your mother died while giving birth to you, so your father, James, who is a skilled doctor and scientist, raised you on his own in the vault. One day, you wake up and the vault is in chaos. Your father is gone, and it turns out he's opened the vault and he escaped. You follow him and exit the only home you've ever known into the Capital Wasteland, the remnants of Washington, D.C. and the surrounding areas 200 years after the world succumbed to nuclear Armageddon. You spend the rest of the campaign searching the wastes for your father, and you become known as the Lone Warrior. What a fucking origin story, right? This was like the first FPS entry into the series. Let me go ahead and turn off the spoiler thing. This isn't really spoilers. These are old games. I gotta say, exiting the vault for the first time as the main character and the light blinding, and then also all of a sudden the light clears up and you see the wasteland. That is an unforgettable fucking moment. Like it gives me goosebumps literally every time I experience it. The mystery surrounding your father and your true origins was really compelling. Like you really identify with the character, and it's I think that's important in any RPG. If you don't feel like you're in it, in the story, in the shit, it's not a very good RPG. So Fallout 3 was very, very good about that. There are great stories and side quests spread all across the Capital Wasteland that give you hours upon hours of gameplay. I think for me, this last time, it was about 30 hours of gameplay. There's endless loot to be found across the waste, as well as plenty of enemies to conquer. I will say the enemy diversity has a really low cap in this game. Like you'll be fighting super mutants and stuff, and it's scary at first, but I mean, after your like 80th super music, you're like, it's not that scary anymore, right? The lore outside of the Capital Wasteland is also touched on, which is really cool because I didn't even know it. I didn't even notice it until Fallout 4 came out later. They talk about there's only one side quest that does it, but it's a side quest that talks about the Institute and synths and the Commonwealth, which is all in Fallout 4. So I thought that was super, super awesome. They gave me a nerdy jizz. It was awesome. The DLCs are all very unique standalone experiences, which is a really great start for the series, I think. They were all excellent DLCs, if not quite short, only a couple of hours of gameplay each, but very, very, very good, honestly. I cannot think of a bad one between all of them. Leveling is really important for a long time while playing, which is good. That's a good thing. You know, a good RPG will make it so that it's hard until it's not hard. You know, there is a point at which you are overpowered, but if that happens too soon in the game, it stops being fun. And Fallout 3 has a really good balance of that. By the time you feel overpowered, it feels earned, you know? It feels earned to the point where like you're underpowered for a long time. I will never forget this. The very first time I played this game, and it was like back in like 2009. Like I didn't really understand how to play RPGs that you were supposed to follow a quest. So I was just like, I'm gonna do what I want. And I just like wandered into this area right outside of Vault 101, and a Deathclaw appeared. This is a Deathclaw right here. He appeared and he fucking clapped my cheeks. He killed me. I was only level 2. He killed me quickly. I was scary as fuck. But I will never forget that moment. But yeah, let's talk about the not so good in Fallout 3. So the side quests are generally excellent and very unique, but they're largely one-offs in the areas around the map, and they don't really have any real cohesion with the overall world or the factions or even the story that we're in the campaign. They generally involve NPCs that you might have already encountered in your journey, but the quests have very little tie-in beyond that, unfortunately, which is something that the later games really improved upon. Oh no, sadly, the companions in this game, you get companions that will fight with you. They are all worthless. They're all worthless except for Fox, because they're all tissue paper, and when they die, it's permanent, and they die easily. They have like 50 health. It's ridiculous. Fox is the Fox who's pictured here. He's the only one that's worth a damn because he's a fucking super mutant and he's tanky as hell. You cannot kill him unless you fucking mini nuke him in the face. That's like the only way he can die, and that's the reason why he's the only one worth a shit. So that really sucks. That I didn't even bother. I didn't even bother picking up companions that aren't Fox in this whenever I play this game. The campaign sadly is extremely short without the DLCs, particularly Broken Steel. So the Broken Steel DLC extended the main story by a lot, mind you, like a few hours, and it also kept the world open. So once you finish the main campaign, you can keep like doing all the side missions and stuff. If you don't have the DLCs, you can't do that. It'll just end. The game will just end. But yeah, without the DLCs, the main campaign, while it is very compelling and it's a good story, the length is very disappointing. It's only like a few hours, like maybe 5 hours total, and that's if you're like taking your time. So yeah, and another unfortunate thing that even though the DLCs did increase the level cap by 10, it's still capped at 30, making it kind of pointless to keep playing after you hit that max level cap, which you can very much do. If you like front load all of the side quests, you'll probably hit 30 pretty quickly. So that's a little bit unfortunate. Also, the DLCs are not really referenced in the base game lore at all. They're very standalone and to themselves, which is really unfortunate because it's not so bad in the first installment in the series, but just given the fact that the later games improved upon it, it makes it a lot more glaring. They're very linear too. There's like not any side quests that you can do in the DLC. And it's not, like I said, it's not a bad thing. That doesn't make for a bad DLC. It is just something that the series improves upon later. Overall, Fallout 3 is a solid entry in this new type of FPS Fallout game, which brings us to its sequel, Fallout New Vegas, which is arguably the best game in this fucking list. That is a hill I'm willing to die on. Let's talk about Fallout New Vegas. Let's start with the good. The biggest improvement that New Vegas made on its predecessor is that it is much lengthier in its campaign, where your allegiances and your choices make very notable consequences on your story, and it very much incentivizes multiple playthroughs. You are the courier, aka Courier 6, who's been tasked with transporting a platinum chip to the New Vegas Strip. But you've been attacked by a man in a checkered suit that not only takes the chip from you, but he shoots you in the head and buries you in a shallow grave. You awaken to find out that you were rescued by one of the robots belonging to the mysterious Mr. House, who is the big boss of the New Vegas Strip, and that he was the one that you were supposed to deliver that chip to. It becomes your mission to track down the man in the checkered suit, get the chip back, and get your revenge. Now, you'll notice this backstory is a lot more dramatic, but it's generic. It's very generic. It's very, like, you really don't even know who Courier 6 is. It's just some shit that happened to you. And that's on purpose. That's on purpose because the focus of Fallout New Vegas is not to lock you in on a campaign based on your backstory. You choose your campaign. It's your actions. It is so clever, I think, that keeping it so open-ended like that, because you get to decide how your story unfolds, who you ally with, what factions you decide to straight up fucking murder, and then who rules New Vegas in the end. And it could be you. It could be you that rules New Vegas in the end. I think this is the crux that makes New Vegas such a fucking fantastic Fallout game. It just gives you the total control over how you want to play your game. Another big improvement that Fallout New Vegas made was making the companions unable to die. So now swapping between the companions to leverage their perks and do their special loyalty missions actually fucking matters. And it's not a fucking waste of time because they don't just die in 2 shots. So plus the companions actually have a lot more personality and backstory in this game. And it ties directly into their loyalty quests, which is pretty cool. I feel like in Fallout 3, the companions, their lives didn't really start until you find them, until the lone wanderer finds them and makes them a companion. Whereas in this game, the companions had lives. They had like relationships. They have backstory. They had a journey before you even met them. And I think that richness in their character makes them a lot more worthwhile. Each DLC for Fallout New Vegas is extremely rich and long and flush with lore that is referenced not only throughout the base game's lore and the base game's NPCs, but each DLC is deeply intertwined with each other. So if you play all of the DLCs, you get a much richer experience than just playing 1 or 2. Multiple NPCs from each DLC and the base game know each other. They've met each other before the courier even even meets them. You know, they visited each of the settings of each DLC and they've left things behind for the player to discover. Not to mention the DLCs bumped the level cap to a whopping 50. So that's a huge improvement over the last game. It is, you can still hit 50 by playing all of the game, but it's unlikely you have to play like the whole game and all the DLCs to hit 50, which is great. That's fantastic. Each DLC has its own map, plenty of locations to explore, as well as side quests. They each have side quests to complete, and they all have a fuck ton of loot. Holy shit. One of the DLCs makes it so that you can leave with 300,000 caps worth of gold, which is all heavy, mind you. You're going to be over encumbered crawling away, but like when you have that much of the in-game currency, you literally never have to worry about money again. You can buy whatever you want whenever you want. So it's very, each of them are so rewarding. They're hard too. They're difficult and rewarding. And so the DLCs are a huge improvement in Fallout New Vegas. Also, all of the factions have their own rich history and lore, each of them intertwining with each other. The NCR and the Khans had a nasty battle at Bitter Springs, making them fucking hate each other. The Legion has terrorized the Mojave Wasteland for years, and the NCR has been desperately trying to keep them at bay while also spreading their resources dangerously thin. The Brotherhood of Steel's obsession with the old world technology makes them outcasts in the wasteland. The families of the New Vegas Strip live in luxury as the slums of Freeside starves and lives in poverty, brewing bad blood between them. There's so much. There's so much, like, it just feels so cool to step into this world that's already going, as opposed to like the world just starting when you arrive. Like this is just the peak of a role play, an RPG story. Holy shit. Let's talk about the bad. Being that the game is so rich in story and has so much free play value, it's really unfortunate that the game strongly incentivizes you not to play as an evil character. You can play as an evil character. You can side with Caesar's Legion. But if you do, you are going to have a severely neutered gameplay experience. You're locked out of companions. You can't have any companions if you're evil. It locks you out of the vast majority of side quests. And most factions fucking hate you. Like most factions, anytime everybody's just gonna be fucking hostile to you. And for good fucking reason, because the Legion sucks. Like they're brutal fucking psychopaths that crucify people and enslave women. It makes sense that they're fucking pretty evil. So if you side with them, you get a bad. And honestly, this is probably intentional. This is probably exactly what Obsidian wanted. They wanted you to feel bad about choosing an evil playthrough. They were just like, you know what? You want to be evil? You're gonna have a shitty time. And I think that was intentional, but it still kind of sucks a little bit. It makes you like, it kind of takes the agency away from the player a little bit. But this is a nitpicking. Yeah. There are way too many special weapons in this game, especially with that Gunrunners Arsenal DLC. That's a DLC that comes with the Ultimate Edition. And it makes it so that every vendor has like 5 or 6 special weapons that cost like a bunch of caps each. And as a result, they stop feeling so special. Pretty much every time I play this game, I kind of just stick to the 2 guns I like to play, and I don't give a fuck about any of the guns I get. Like if I go to an area and I find a special gun, I sell it. I sell it for ammo for the guns I do like. So that's a little bit unfortunate, the oversaturation of special guns in this game. The skill ceiling in this game is unfortunately much lower than its predecessor. You will become overpowered fucking quickly. I've been playing the game for about 20 hours now. I'm not even halfway through the campaign, and I'm just fucking murdering people. Literally, I had a situation just like this pictured, where there were 5. I wandered into this Deathclaws area that was overrun with Deathclaws, and I literally had 8 of them, 8 Deathclaws, all backing me into a corner, swiping me at the same time. And each Deathclaw takes like 30% of your health, but all I had to do is spray an SMG at them and spam the stim pack hotkey, and I've just fucking killed the ball. And I feel like you shouldn't fucking be able to do that. I'm just saying, but this is also a nitpicking. All of these cons were nits because this game is easily the best out of this whole fucking list by a mile. Sadly, its successor did not fill in the massive shoes that this game left. Let's talk about Fallout 4. Fallout 4 is the sequel that we waited a whole whopping 5 years for. It was not a bad game by any means. It was not, guys. It just didn't feel like a Fallout game anymore. you know? Let's start with the good. This game had the most fleshed out character origin of any of its predecessors, making it feel less like an RPG, at least story wise, and more like an action adventure game with an established protagonist. You are a house husband or housewife in New England in 2077. It's a week before Halloween, and the neighborhood is abuzz with their holiday preparations. You and your spouse care for your infant son, Sean, in your cookie cutter house that weirdly looks 1950s, but also kind of futuristic with hovering robots and fusion cars. Don't ask too many questions. Suddenly, a breaking news alert appears on the television, telling the world that the nuclear Armageddon has begun. You and your spouse take Sean to a nearby vault, and just a couple of seconds before you descend into safety, a nuclear warhead detonates over Boston in the distance, and you narrowly escape the shockwave as you descend. In the vault, you are told to enter strange pods and that these pods will disinfect you so that you can proceed into the vault. Much to your surprise, the pods are actually cryogenic capsules, and you, your spouse, your son, and all of the rest of the vault dwellers are forcibly set to be indefinitely frozen so that scientists can observe the long-term effects of cryostasis on your bodies. Now, this is actually a recurring theme in all of the Fallout series, that each of the vaults, this corporation called Vault-Tec made these vaults under the guise of protecting people in the event of a nuclear Armageddon. However, you'll find that every single vault has a dark secret. They were all created to basically run some cruel test on human subjects unbeknownst to them, and for scientists that were in the know to observe them. Every single vault is like this, and it's actually so fascinating. I think I might actually do a YouTube video on this, just like going through all of these vaults and like talking about what they are, because it's really fun. It's really fucking fascinating. Anyway, that's a segue. You are briefly unfrozen, only to witness your son being taken and your spouse being killed before your eyes. Before you can do anything, you are sent back into cryostasis for an unknown period of time. You awaken again, apparently from a failure in the cryopod, and you find every single other person in the cryopods are dead, and the vault is abandoned. You reemerge from the vault into the Commonwealth as the sole survivor, and you begin your mission to find your son. The mystery around this campaign was so fucking rad, and the plot twist at the end was it was really great too. However, I will tell you, if you decide to make your main character black like I did, the plot twist is going to be spoiled immediately as soon as you that's all I'm going to say about that. But when I played this game for the first time and I saw the plot twist, I'm just like, yep. So that's a little bit unfortunate, but it was still a really solid game, you know. Let's talk about the rest of the good things about this game. The biggest recurring theme you're going to find in this list of pros are mechanics that got improved. Like this game overhauled how mechanics are done in Fallout games for the better. The unfortunate side effect is that some of the Fallout elements are missing. So let's talk about the good first. The character creation system was a monumental improvement over the game's predecessors. You can really make your character look however the fuck you want. You can make him look like Kanye West. You can make him look like George Bush. You can make him look like Piccolo from Dragon Ball. You can make him look like a fucking ghoul. You have total freedom. And I thought that was really cool, especially because in the predecessors, it was kind of lazy. Like the character creation was just a little bit lazy. In fact, you don't really ever see the character in the previous games. In this game, you see the character all the time because of how the dialogue is done, because there's actually spoken dialogue now. But in the previous games, you literally never fucking see your character's face. So I would just like skip through it. I didn't give a fuck what they looked like. It didn't fucking matter. So anywho, the combat system in this game was also totally overhauled. And for the first time, this Fallout game actually felt like a FPS game. It felt good, you know, like historically Fallout game combat has been clunky, and it really relies on, you really rely on what's called the VAT system, which is effectively the game kind of shooting for you, which is a fine way to go. And that VAT system is actually still in Fallout 4, but it's not like pausing time anymore. Now it's like slow motion, and you actually have to think on your feet, which is so the combat overall I think was a huge improvement in this game. And it actually is also very apparent in Fallout 4 in VR. If you've never played this game, or if you haven't played it in a while, I really recommend playing it in VR because it actually feels great. It's a really good experience. Like so I really, it's a really solid way to play the game. I played it myself for like something like 10 hours, and it's super, it was pretty rad. The perk system is the peak of the series. It has never been this good. This is the best it's ever been. And this is how it should have always been. This is the first truly RPG perk system in a Fallout game. The perks are organized by your special attributes, which at the beginning of the game, you get a total number of excuse me, attribute points that you allocate in each of these buckets. Excuse me. I just started like choking a little bit. And all of the perks are organized in these tiers, you know? So you have to like really, and you only get like you level up throughout the game and you can get more points to allocate into these tiers, but you really have to think about how you want to play the game. Do you want to play the game super stealthy? Do you want to play the game running and gunning and spraying? Do you want to play the game as a mastermind genius that's letting other people do its bidding? You really have to just decide how you want to play the game and pick perks that play into that play style. So it's really, really robust of a perk system, and I really, really liked it. It really maximizes the gameplay that matches your preference. They also added a Fortnite-like building mechanic in Fallout, which personally I didn't leverage this, but I thought it was a really cool addition for folks that really do like doing this building thing. Like people got kind of crazy with it. This is just a screenshot I found off the internet, but people would make like fucking like skyscrapers, like mansions, like people got really fucking creative here. So I thought that was a really cool addition. The mod system was also overhauled. So there was a mod system that was introduced in Fallout New Vegas, but it was very simple. Like you kind of just bought mods and just glued them to your gun. Whereas this mod system makes it so you can build guns from the ground up, which was new, totally new. This is another thing that I didn't really leverage to its fullest extent, but it brought a lot of depth into the gameplay for the game mechanics. And in general, this overhaul is one of the major strengths of the game. It's the Fallout elements that got nerfed. So let's get into that. Let's talk about the bad. One of the most uniquely Fallout elements in any Fallout games got totally neutered in Fallout 4. It's the dialogue system. The dialogue system has historically been extremely rich in the previous games, where the player can have upwards of 10 options in a conversation, and you can decide how you want to be. You decide who you want to be. You could be a good-natured angel. You could be a money-grubbing bastard. You could be an ultra-charismatic sly dog. You could be a total fucking asshole, or you could be straight up evil. You could be a cannibal. I swear to God, you could be a cannibal in the original games. Like, you had so much freedom, and that freedom's gone. It's gone in Fallout 4. You're reduced to 4 options, and these options are abbreviated. You don't even know what exactly they're going to say. Not to mention, I don't know. It's just really disappointing. In the previous games, your skills and your special attributes fed into what dialogues you could pass. Like if you had a conversation challenge in the game, you had to also like level up your character in a way that sets you up for success in these dialogues. In this system, the best you can be, like, you can either be super polite or slightly sarcastic and rude. That's it. You can't be evil. You can't be a total bitch. You can't just start a fight. Like, it's so unfortunate. And I think the reason why they neutered the system so much is because they decided to voice the character. And when you voice the character, before it was all text based. You didn't have to voice the character, so you didn't have to invite a voice actor in to record 10,000 lines, right? Whereas now you have a voice actor that you have to come in and record every single iteration and every single combination of lines. So obviously they had to limit that. So I get it. I get why they had to do it. It just sucks. I would have preferred them not voice the character. I would have preferred them just not voice the character and just give us that freedom back, because that really fucking took me out of what makes a Fallout game a Fallout game. It just felt like every conversation was a long, boring cutscene that I just didn't give a fuck about. So, unfortunate. The power armor is, it's nice that you don't need special training to use power armor in Fallout 4. So in the previous games, if you wanted to use power armor, you could not do it early on in the game. You had to play quite a bit of the game before you can actually even be able to put it on. This game, you can put it on immediately. So that's good. The unfortunate part is that power armor is a fucking chore to use. For one, the mod system that they've put in extends to the armor as well. So the armor, you can like mix and match your arm gauntlets and your helmet and your chest piece and your legs. Like you can mix and match all kinds of things, which brings a very customizable element to the game, which is fine. But I didn't love it because then like my helmet would break. So like now I'm walking around without a helmet. Whereas in the last one, it was just armor and helmets. Like, I don't know. That was a bad example. But I mean, the idea is that it was just too much for my simple brain to track. Another unfortunate bit was, in order to use power armors, you have to use a power source. It's called power cells. And when your power cell runs out, you can't use the armor anymore. It'll just freeze in place. So I found myself having to just straight up abandon armor that I would find because I didn't have any fucking power cells. I get that it adds realism to the game, but I am not playing Fallout for fucking realism, goddammit. I did like the HUD though. The HUD you're seeing here, it's like a special HUD you get when you're in the power armor. I thought that was pretty cool, but I don't know. It just felt like such a fucking hassle. Just total pain in the ass to even use it. So I just stopped using power armor personally. The companions are all pretty forgettable, except for Nick Valentine. I really like Nick Valentine, but I can't even use him because he had a whole ass DLC about him. So it's like not even fair. I did like that the companions like had opinions, like they each had like a moral compass such that the specific actions you would take or if it's different dialogue choices that you would make they would hear it and they'd be like, oh, Private Dance liked that. Oh, Nick Valentine didn't like that, which was pretty cool. Unfortunately, most of the companions just kind of came off as judgy, annoying bitches. Yeah, just being judgy as fuck. And I'm just like, bitch, stop judging me. Get the fuck out of here. I'm looking at you, Private Dance. I'm looking at you, Synth. Spoiler alert, sorry. The four main factions were super dull, in my opinion. I didn't give a fuck about any of their missions, and it sucks because the whole main campaign, the whole second half of it is all about choosing a faction and like going with them and completing the game. So the factions are, the first one is the Institute. In the Institute are a bunch of god complex egghead scientists that want to enslave all synths. The Brother of Steel are bullies that want to murder all synths. The Railroad are extremist activists that want to save all the synths. And the Minutemen are a bunch of mofos just trying to fucking survive. They're just trying to keep people alive in the apocalypse. I didn't give a fuck about any of these fucking factions at all. I don't even remember the damn end of the game. I don't even remember how the fucking game ended because I was so fucking checked out at this point. Holy shit. Oh, all in all, Fallout 4 had some of the best mechanics in the fucking franchise. Unfortunately, it lacked those fundamental elements that makes a Fallout game feel like a Fallout game. And I think that's the reason why it wasn't well received by fans. As a standalone game, it's a solid fucking game. It's an action adventure RPG. You're going to fucking have fun playing it. But if you're a diehard Fallout fan, you might find it a little bit disappointing. Now, let's talk about the future. So the latest iteration in the Fallout franchise was Fallout 76. And I've actually never played this game because the biggest reason was my underwhelming experience with Fallout 4. It really kind of put a sour taste in my mouth about the franchise. And not to mention, the launch of Fallout 76 was bad. It was not good. At launch, they relied on the players, like the actual physical players playing the game and the online format of the game, to fill out the world with experiences. So the game had no NPCs and it made for an extremely boring experience and a really lackluster launch. They have since corrected this by adding so many more stories, so much more lore, so much more locations, and most importantly, many NPCs to interact with. So it's feeling much better, much more like a Fallout game. now. So they've added a lot of content too. I think this game came out in like 2018 or something like that. So they've been adding content and expansions and DLCs for the last like 4 years, and there is a lot to fucking do. So, and there's actually more on the roadmap. I actually took a look at the roadmap. They've got a lot's planned for the rest of this year. So I plan on picking this up next. Like I said, I'm replaying all of the Fallout games. I'm gonna skip Fallout 4 and just go straight to this. I'm really excited about this. And that, folks, was We Need to Talk. Let's go into our last segment of the first hour, and that is Anticipation, where I talk about all of the things that I am most excited about for the next month, starting with Silt. So Silt is a upcoming game. It's going to come out on June 1st next week, and it's kind of a horror indie game that's kind of a two-dimensional platformer that's set underwater. So you're just like swimming. Like, it's not really a platform, it's just two-dimensional. And it looks really cool. The art looks very spooky and creepy. And there's puzzles and mysteries to solve and sea creatures to possess and danger. And I'm really fucking excited about this one. This one looks pretty cool. Destiny 2, The Season of the Haunted. So as y'all know, I always say that I used to be a big Destiny fan. I used to play the fuck out of that game. I tried playing The Witch Queen. I did not get far into it. I did not finish The Witch Queen. But Destiny just has such a warm place in my heart that I really want to come back to it. So I'm looking at this new season. It just launched yesterday. It's looking like it's focusing on like the nightmares that were introduced back in the Shadowkeep expansion a couple of years ago. The Leviathans coming back to a return. I think there's going to be a new dungeon dropping. It looks like a really fucking cool, a really good time to come back to the game. So I will try to come back to the game and check out this season. The Boys, the new trailer for The Boys just dropped last week, and it is going to be premiering on June 3rd. This is pretty exciting. It looked like a lot of the same, a very crazy Homelander, a lot of fucking needless gore, a lot of politics and satire, and a little bit shark jumpy in my opinion. Something we saw in the trailer is what you're seeing here is Butcher took a potion or took an injection or whatever the fuck that gives him powers for 24 hours, which kind of made me go a little bit, just because it just feels a little bit shark jumping. Well, I will reserve judgment because I love this show, and I will be watching it next month and see how I like it. Miss Marvel is about to come out as well. It's going to be coming out on June 8th. It's about a high school girl named Kamala who is a super obsessed with superheroes, much like myself. Specifically Captain Marvel. She doesn't feel like she fits in school. So this feels like a pretty hackneyed premise a little bit, but it's still exciting to see an up and coming, young person finding themselves. She gets powers like the hero she looks up to, so now she's going to be a superhero, and I'm really excited to see how this folds out. The Quarry is an upcoming video game made by, I want to say it's the same folks that made Until Dawn, and the Dark Anthology games. So I'm really excited about this one. I'm actually really behind on the Dark Anthology games, but this is supposed to be the spiritual successor to Until Dawn specifically. And it's about 9 teenage counselors at a summer camp that need to survive the night. And it's the same kind of thing as Until Dawn, where you have a killer on the loose and you have to like do quick time actions and you have to make choices, and it decides whether or not people die. Usually when I play these games, I play them in 2 tries. The first try, I do it blind and I try to make as many people survive as I can. Usually I fail at that. Usually at least 1 or 2 people dies. And then the second playthrough, I go for the perfect playthrough where I make it so everybody survives. And if anybody dies, I start the game over. So I will be streaming this next week. I'm excited. Maybe 2 weeks from now. It's on June 10th. I'm very excited for this game. Lightyear is about to come out on June 17th. So those of you folks that grew up in the early 2000s and late 90s and grew up with Toy Story, this is probably for you. Buzz Lightyear, I don't know what they're doing with this. When I saw the trailer, it looks a lot like, I don't know, like a soft reboot where they're actually trying to make a real story about Buzz Lightyear. I don't know if it has any tie-in to him being a toy or whatever, but I'm really excited to see it. Plus, they kind of made him look like fine as hell for some reason. I don't know why the fuck they made him look like a zaddy. That makes no sense. But anyway, Lightyear's coming out in a few weeks, and I'm excited to watch it. Ooh, Umbrella Academy 3, season 3. That trailer also got launched, I think, this past weekend. And it's looking like some more shenanigans with our 6 lovable misfit superheroes. In this, it looks like the premise this season is that they have been jettisoned into a new multiverse, a new universe. And in this universe, there is another set of Umbrella teenager people that are superpowered, as well as their brother Ben. Now, their brother Ben in this universe is alive. So, but in this universe, he doesn't know them. So they're just like, Ben, hey! And he's just like, I don't fucking know you guys. Get the fuck away from me. So it's gonna be really fun. I think it's gonna be a fun time. It's always a fun time with Umbrella Academy, and it comes out on June 22nd. Westworld season 4 got announced. I didn't even fucking know this existed. I fucking haven't thought about Westworld in like 2 years. Like, I like Westworld. I recall myself enjoying watching it, but I cannot for the life of me tell you what the plot of season 2 and 3 were. I know what the plot of season 1 was because it was so good, but season 2 and 3, I have no idea. I have no idea what the fucking plot was. So I'll be watching it. Maybe I kind of am thinking I should just binge seasons 1 through 3 again, just to like remember what the fuck happened. Because going into season 4, I'm gonna be so fucking lost. But it comes out on June 26th. And then finally, Outriders World Slayer is coming out. Outriders is a kind of a looter shooter game that had a really fucking cool premise. I've tried this game last year when it dropped. The reason why I fell off of this game is that it started off like easy as fuck for some reason. I was like, damn, these are all bots. I'm killing everybody. Yeah. And then when the game really started, I went to my first like little dungeon area. Excuse me, and the boss was way too hard. And I was like, okay, maybe I'm not going to play this game anymore. This is too hard. So I'd love to come back to it because I just really loved the world that they established. It was such a unique premise. And yeah, this new expansion is supposed to be a totally new campaign that totally expands on the Outrider story that came out last year. It's going to be like a kind of a winter blizzard in a hostile environment. I would love to try this. So this comes out on June 30th. And that, folks, is Pop That Culture. When we're going to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to invite a guest on to talk about tragedy and social media. So stay tuned, folks. Hello, folks. If you like what you're hearing or what you're watching, then please check out my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Gozimai. That's GOZIMAI, where you'll catch me playing video games, cracking dumbass jokes, and having a good ass time. I post my schedule every Monday on Twitter, so please come and say hi. And now back to the show. And we are back with part 2 of our show, Talk Gozy to Me. Talk Gozy to Me. Talk Gozy to Me. Talk Gozy to Me. Our guest tonight is a wild witchy woman who uses witchcraft to provide people guidance and to help them work with the energies in life. She specializes in card reading, crystals, and movement. Please join me in welcoming on Stephanie. All right,
okay.
Tell us about your brand, Stephanie.
I swear to God. So, as the intro said, I am a witch. I do card readings. I work with crystals. I do a lot of ancestral magic. Here's my altar right there. I have crystals. I'll show you guys my setup later. And yeah, I connect with the person. We have fun. I look into you. Maybe you have some questions. Maybe you have a couple of insights. And we just look at the energies at play and get a little bit more insight in what's going on. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's my brand.
I love it. What makes you so passionate about your content you made?
People, because I love people.
Yes.
Especially strangers. They're my fave. But no, it's like, you know, I see this as a gift, right? And it's like one of those things that I can give to people that makes me genuinely feel good because I feel like I'm helping. So it makes me passionate because I'm just like, the more I learn, because I mean, you're always learning in the craft, and the more that I can do, the more I can help people. And that's just kind of my purpose in life is to help people understand their greatness. And it's just another step and way that I can do that for people.
Yes. Yeah. What got you started in your craft?
I started having the same dreams every year for about 6 years when I was a little kid, and it freaked me out.
Mm.
And I was like, why? It was always a dream about Freddy Krueger and Cabbage Patches.
Ooh, that's
But
specific.
regardless of that, I was like, wait, isn't this deja vu? Am I really having these dreams? And it took me a while to figure out. So then doing a little bit more history and learning, I was very fortunate to grow up with a family that has a lot of older people in it.
Mm.
So I lived with my grandmother, my grandfather, my great-grandmother, my great-aunts, and my cousin Lisa, who was an adult, but she was younger. But then she ended up moving out, and then I was just the kid in the house.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to learn a lot about the family. I got to be around a lot of older people. I was there when like my Nana passed away, and I had seen my aunt right before she left. My stepmom has passed away, so I just have a connection with my family in a way. And as I started learning more about, what were we practicing in Africa before we were brought here for that bullshit?
Mm-hmm.
And just learning about the religion, and then the just learning about my culture more, I guess you could say. All that I just said is how I got started. And then I had like witchy friends, I was the goth girl once I was in like my 20s. So then, I met some of my best friends who are, goth and into witchy stuff, and just, kind of learning that sometimes we don't know logically an answer to something, maybe emotionally. And I am an emotional person. Taurus sun, double Cancer, moon and rising. So I'm an emotional, grounded bitch.
Yes. Yes.
So it really just learning about, my people, this is what we did, Yoruba. And then having one of my very best friends in Vegas is Cuban, and she practices a lot of the same similar things but different. So that's kind of how that happened.
Yes, I can definitely identify with that, being an empath myself, Pisces.
Yes.
Yes.
Praise be.
What are some common myths that you've seen people that are unfamiliar with witchcraft believe, and let's debunk them?
Y'all, listen to me. Get close to the screen if you need to. Don't be asking people who say there are witches if they're good or bad witch. That is probably the number one thing that makes me want to stab people in the throat immediately. Because as it's 2022, we're learning about a lot of things. We're learning the intent behind words and where they originated from, So when you ask a witch or someone who practices, are you a good witch or are you a bad witch? It's like, why are you asking about the morality of what I do? It doesn't matter. Good witch and bad witch? What is that actually? Well, we grew up. Good witches do nice things. Bad witches do bad things. So if you hex and curse and do all of these things, you're a bad witch. If you're love and light, peace, doing only good things for people, then you're a good witch. No. Everyone is a nuanced individual, and it's even more so in witchcraft. Just because, and this is one of the, a version of the example I give people, it's like, you say that the things I do make me a bad witch. But when my ancestors were enslaved, what did they have? They only had their religion and their, emotional attachments and their soul to connect with. So yes, maybe I do go to the railroad and make sure I have a bunch of rusty nails in case I need to fuck someone up. Because maybe the person I need to fuck up is actually abusing my best friend.
Hey, there you go.
Or someone's just being a terrible, is it still, you know what I'm saying? Like, am I still good or am I bad? It's subjective.
Yeah.
So that's probably the main one. Other one, so you could tell my future? No, bitch, I can't. No, I can't. That's not what I do. Let's cut that the fuck out. So stop telling people that. What else? Sometimes I get asked so many questions, especially, so I live my life very openly. So people know, my boss knows, like, everybody knows what the fuck I do.
Hmm.
And so people sometimes will just ask me like the craziest things, and I'll be like, what?
Like what? What's the craziest thing?
I don't know what the craziest thing, but sometimes they'll just be like, I'm trying to think. I just had one in my head. Where the fuck did it go? They will just ask if I'll do weird things. We're like, no, I don't bring people back from the dead. I know people who can, but they are in the Marvel universe.
There you go.
I could do what you're asking, and that's another thing. Well, I have this person that's being really terrible.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, as a witch, you learn to, when you're reading cards and working with people, a lot of things are emotional based, especially when you're an empath and you're sensitive to that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just weird because sometimes people will be like, can you make this person fall in love with me? And I'm like, absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
No. I get asked that more times than anything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, y'all. Y'all worried about me being a good witch or a bad witch, but people that do stuff like that, that's a heavy price that you have to pay. And that's another one. People think I'm just out here hexing and cursing people for fun. Like, it takes a lot of energy and intent to do things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And where I live, they're not the best people up here. They have a little bit of racism sprinkled in with conservatism and a whole bunch of other stuff. We had an issue in 2020, but we'll get to tragedy and all that later. But I could have fucking hexed and cursed all these motherfuckers.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what I do. You know, my witchcraft is for me.
Yes.
I get my own shit right. But I have these gifts to give to people too. So it's like, I'm not about to spend my energy because of this person was a complete racist to me. Like, I'm going to be a little bit more selective in what I do. And it's not always love and light, y'all.
Yeah.
That also drives me insane. Sometimes things suck. I know that, like, for me, I don't do magic in general, whether you deem it good or bad, if I'm not in the right headspace. I just don't. That's not conducive to the gifts I was given and how I want to conduct myself. Because, you know, I'm still a person. Mm-hmm. I'm still in the real world. But, yeah, I'm just rambling because I could talk about this.
Yeah.
Ask me another question.
Hi. If someone were interested in getting started in witchcraft, what do they have to do? Is there like a community they could join?
Ooh, so Facebook, I know, y'all. Same.
Yeah, Facebook.
But there's a lot of ways you can get into that. Like, there's pagan groups, there's witch groups, there's for anything in general. But there's also books and read things from multiple people. But also, there's two things that I always suggest people really do. One, you need to understand your beliefs, especially religion-wise. Because, so I was raised Baptist. So doing all of this really had me disconnecting and putting things back together in a different way. And that's not always great. So you have to be able to really work on yourself, figuring out your beliefs, and also, what was the other thing? Learning about them yourself and being honest with yourself. So, because it's very scary when you make a change, a very large change, you're like, we are not honest with ourselves as people. So, and I'll add another thing. 3, I don't know what number. Connect with your older family and ancestors. White people, yes, most of your ancestors were racist and or had slaves. Keep it moving. We know that there are bad things that we're all maybe would possibly get into, but I mean, go back, get to your roots, learn about some stuff, learn about the holidays that were celebrated. If you find out that you have Scottish in your family, you have Italian, whatever you do, get connected with your ancestors and really just start from there. It's you and the ancestors, and then, books, shows, Facebook. There's all kinds of ways to get into it.
Absolutely. Very nice. Any
Yeah.
upcoming projects you want to talk about?
Yeah, so I'm getting Heart Soul Magic started back up again. Gotta take a break because of 2020. We'll get there. And I'm gonna start doing hula hooping and card pulling.
Oh.
So, like I said, I work in movement with like a lot of the stuff I do. That's my favorite way to raise energy is through dance and movement. And hula hooping is like some of my friends know I'm dope. Like
Yes.
big girl, like I get down, I hoop dance. I also do flow on stuff. So I just like to play in the space of like energy and stuff. So I'm gonna start doing that, and that should be really fun. I'm also going to start I'm working on a series of classes on how to add more witchcraft in your life. And it's like basic stuff that we all know, but sometimes it's cool to just hear from someone else in a different way. Because so like one of them will be cleaning your house with witchcraft, how you manage your mental health with witchcraft, things like that. So I'm working on that. That'll probably be out by the end of the summer.
Nice.
And I'm just going to be open up for more readings. I might do like card pulls live. I'm mostly going to be on Facebook for right now once I get the YouTube up and running. But yeah, I'm planning some fun stuff.
That rocks. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
With that, let's go ahead and move on to our next topic on that real shit.
Yeah.
In the last week and a half, we've seen 2 mass shootings claim 31 lives. One racially driven against Black Americans and one in an elementary school with young children. Both times, I personally found out about these incidents minutes after they happened via Twitter notifications. We've seen time and time again this media cycle whenever tragedy happens in today's society, and the biggest recurring theme is that they're short-lived. We collectively have a short attention span when these things happen, and it made me think about how we reacted to tragedy 15, even 20 years ago, long before social media was what it is today. 9/11 inspired a nation to unite in the same in the name of patriotism and go to war for 2 decades, America's longest war. And I'm not going to sit here and say that's a good thing, but that was a powerful reaction, the scale and long-term effects of which we don't see anymore when tragedy happens. Today, in a world where social media dominates the way we consume and spread information, whenever tragedy happens, I observe what I'm going to call in this podcast the 6 stages of society's modern media response to tragedy. Initial shock, collective sadness, political outrage, social and political activism, bitterness, and then forgotten until the next tragedy happens. So tonight on That Real Shit, our topic is let's talk about tragedy and social media, how technology has changed the way we react to tragedy. Let's start with the initial shock, Stephanie. What do we see in the first minutes, even minutes after a tragedy happens? What do we observe? Yeah.
On social media, so the card I pulled, I'm doing some cards. This one is judgment. And I think that's a good one for the first, like part of the first reaction. We're like, oh no. Then we go into like, let's keep it real. Who did this? Was it a white guy? Are they alive? Who is involved? Was it a Black guy? Was it a woman? We start getting into all these specific things. But I think that's because of, how you listed your cycle, which was excellent, by the way. We're just like, oh my God. And we also doom scroll. I know y'all doom scroll. I know I doom scroll. And I get updates. So for instance, the Texas shooting on my phone, CNN, Washington Post. So when I know I start to get 1 or 2 notifications, I'm like, something bad's happening.
Oh yeah. That's a good thing you called out. Like the whole like mass spread of information when it starts to go viral, when it really starts to pick up, because it always usually
Mhm.
starts with like a cell phone video that gets uploaded to Twitter and that goes viral. Or in this, I mean, in a couple weeks ago, that asshole that murdered all those people fucking live streamed it to Twitch. You know, so like once it goes live and viral like that, then we kind of can't control when it hits us. For me, when the Texas shooting happened a few days ago, I was actually in a meeting with my boss, like like a Teams meeting on Zoom, and I was presenting something, and then I get a notification on my watch. I look down, and it tells me that 14 little kids were just murdered. And I had to stop the meeting, and I stopped, and I had to ask my boss for some time, and I had to go cry because I was like, it was so triggering seeing that. So what is, because of that, what is it a good thing? Is it a good thing that it goes viral so quickly that everybody knows about it in minutes? What do you think about that?
So the card I pulled for this came up was indecision, because that's so true. I don't know. I see the goodness of it and I see the badness of it. It's like we start overwhelming ourselves with information. We start speculating what's happening, and none of that's good, because we don't know what's happening. We're just getting in a spiral of like anxiety and like, oh my God, can you believe this?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, some of us need social media to make us aware of things. Now, that may be good or bad, but I think the good thing is that on social media too, you can also get information from the people who are there, from the people who have firsthand accounts. And I think that's great, because we all know, regardless of sides, what the media feeds us, what they want to. And in the beginning of these tragedies, everything's chaos. So like yesterday, CNN was like, shooting in Texas Elementary School. Then it was like 1 dead, several injured. Then it was like 14 dead children, 3 teachers. Then it was 18. Like, you see what I'm saying? So we start getting, oh, that's not great, but we need to know. And I think social media has really helped more people know what the fuck is going on than before. And I think that is a good part of it.
That's a good segue. So what about, so we see it go viral on social media quickly, like minutes after it happens. What about the impact of like the families, right? Like I can only imagine some families maybe only just they found out about it through Twitter before they even knew that their kid was killed. Like they might have found out about it like on a notification on their phone. Like at what is it bad? Like does even though it's great that it gets the information out so quickly, it's kind of like an unpoliced stream of information that could hurt people.
Right. And I think, let me see, I'm gonna pull another card. So I got envy and peace. Envy says I am the same as everybody, but with different challenges. And peace says I am a being of love and I relieve all negative energy. So I see how that correlates. It has got to be one of the worst things to find out that something has happened to your family or somewhere you live or somewhere where you know someone, but especially the families online. There's no way for us to make peace about how that's not great. I think all of us can agree, most of us anyway, that finding out that your family member died through Twitter is awful. I haven't had a family member died, but I did find out that the prison my brother is at had the worst COVID outbreaks. And then a couple of days later, my brother, who is asthmatic, told me he had COVID. Like, I wish I would not have learned that the way that I did, because then it was, anxiety. And don't think I'm trying to connect that fully with the tragedy of somebody dying.
Right.
But sometimes I think I see a positive where, hey, maybe I saw something and I know you're at work and I can tell you, but these are very specific things.
Yeah.
So I overall think it's not great. And I think things may change a little bit if, we all understand things. Like, we're all different,
Right.
We all process information differently. We all live our lives differently, but empathy is something we all need to get on the same page with. So that sometimes when we're doing something, we say, hey, stop, hold on. Maybe I don't need to tweet this. And it's so funny because I just looked at my memories on Facebook today and I was talking to my bestie Elizabeth. Hey, girl. And I was like, oh, these posts from 2020 were, hey, y'all, maybe think that your Black friends don't want to keep seeing George Floyd die.
Yep.
So, like, then you have to be like, all right, how do I get someone to understand this better? Would you want to see your family member die over and over and screaming? No, they're different. But that empathy is there for everything. So
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I'm really glad you brought that up because it's triggering as hell. Especially like for Black Americans, like when I don't think I never saw the George Floyd video because it was one of like 200 more videos that we've seen of unarmed Black people being gunned down for the crime of, I guess, existing. And yeah, I only ever saw the screenshots, and even those screenshots, they're triggering. I get it that like people make those go viral because they're saying, oh, you need to look at it and feel angry. But I'm like, we're Black in America, we're already fucking angry.
We always angry.
Like we have always been fucking angry. That shit is not for us.
Yeah.
So
sorry. And especially me, because I have a lot of white friends. Like the story of me getting to my Blackness, I could talk about that another time. But it really came to the forefront during George Floyd because I was like, y'all are reposting this for your people, not for mine. Please I didn't even say don't post it. I said, make sure your Black friends aren't seeing this. We may not want to see this over and over. Because I watched that video on a loop for about 5 minutes. And then I was like, I never want to see this video again.
Yeah.
Because it was terrifying. It was awful.
Absolutely. Let's move on to the next phase, I suppose, of our reaction or via technology, collective sadness. So this usually happens once the death toll happens. The final death toll gets released. You see the attacker's been dealt with, usually alive. If it's a white assailant, usually they get taken alive, but we'll get to that a little bit later. And then the thoughts and prayers begin. What are we seeing?
Yeah.
What are we observing there?
So I just pulled 2 cards, Pride and Grief. It's interesting because Pride says, I love myself and I see myself in everyone. And I get that. Grief, we're talking about sadness, right? It's something like previously we're talking about how our differences, but this is like that sadness, that grief. I don't know how many times you cried that day, but I just kept crying all day once I found out about those babies. After I had already gone a week crying about Black people. Also, like, I'm connected to Buffalo, not just from my football team, but I grew up in Niagara Falls. So, like, that area is, like, special to me. I know what area they're talking. So we're all just, like, that shock, I think, is the same for everyone. And it's so intense and strong. And then the next card I just pulled was service. I feel good when I can help others. So those thoughts and prayers that people do, look, if you love the JC and you got to pray about it and you want to send love through prayer, I get it. But what has happened is it has become like, what's it called? Like performative allyship, but like kind of performative empathy, like
virtue signaling.
Like, oh no, thoughts and prayers. Knowing that you can just say that and your conscience is good. Like, what does that do? Is that a way of comforting people? I get it. you want to comfort people in like tragedy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But thoughts and prayers is not necessarily comforting for people. Because if you said thoughts and prayers to my cousin getting killed,
Mm-hmm.
I'd be like, that does nothing for me. Thoughts and prayers is for you.
Yeah. Yep.
It does nothing for me. So after I feel good when I can help others, which we should, but this is different. Thoughts and prayers now is expected
Yep.
and mocked because the people who normally say it, because a lot of people I know who are, into the JC and religious in some way, they pray for people. They don't go around social media and stuff and just start proselytizing to people or being like thoughts and prayers, like in a way that's very like everyone does this, so I can say this and everyone's going to be like, yes, thoughts and prayers. Like, it does nothing for the person. I wish people would stop fucking saying it, honestly.
No, absolutely. And that's another good point with it being so mechanical and so expected. You see, it's another reflex you see every single time a tragedy happens. Every single celebrity and public figure in the world has to chime in on it. They have to say their thing on it. My question is, does everybody need to, and not even celebrities, like normie ass people, just like all putting in their 2 cents? Like, does it always have to turn into that every time a tragedy happens? Does it obscure the issue into something else?
Right. So the card I pulled was doubt, which says, I release the need to know all the answers. So that gets into this where, do we need everybody saying something? Nah. It'd be nice for the people to say something when it matters, actually, and then also do something. It's like, I don't know if you've seen, did you see the video of Beto getting kicked out?
No. Beto O'Rourke, the guy who tried to run for government?
Yeah. He went to a press thing that had Greg Abbott, Governor Abbott, and like the mayor. And so they were talking. His ass got up and was like, this is your fault. You haven't done anything. And people were like, why are you making this political? Why are you being out of line? He's just standing and being like, hey, no, it's time for me to talk. So they escorted him out because Beto is Gen X and he don't give a fuck. But like, him, Steve Kerr, who's a basketball coach for Golden State, his video is super impassioned about when is this going to be enough? Like, how many kids? And he's talking about all the shootings that have happened in the last week and a half. But those are 2 white dudes I always see do that. They're consistent.
Yes.
It's the people who choose to nitpick which thing they want to talk about that I'm like, I hate whataboutism, because whataboutism really is nothing. But I'm like, I never see this motherfucker talk about Black lives like this. I never see this motherfucker say things about trans people. And it's like,
It's
I see
because
you.
they were killed. Now suddenly, now I'm on the right side of this.
Yes, I'm on. Let everyone, and that's another thing going back to, service. Like, I want people to know that I'm on the right side. But everybody think they on the right side. And also, I mean, it's social media. It's gonna be like that. So it's kind of one of those things I'm like, yeah, no, I see you. But whatever. It's gonna be this way. It's gonna be this way.
A follow-up question: if it's a marginalized group being the focus, like recently, the recent attack was targeting Black people, are the members of that community, are the members of that group required to comment on it? Is silence okay?
Silence is fine when you are the oppressed. Listen, y'all. We talked longer about Will Smith slapping the shit out of Chris Rock than we did about Buffalo or the church in Southern California, the Asian church.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about that, and we've talked about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard longer than tragedies where people have died. They have been doing it live on court TV. That's whatever. I just get so mad.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I don't always have to. That's kind of like people who are like, hey, can I ask you a question? And I'm like, is it something you need to ask a black person?
Mm-hmm.
There's like 3 people in my life I let do that. Other people, I'm like,
Google it.
here's my. Now I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put my Venmo link first.
Yes. Pay me for it, bitches. Pay me for it.
And then we can talk about it.
Yes.
Because so where I live, when I moved here, I think the census said we had 12 black people.
Oh no.
So with that, people kept saying things to me like, well, maybe you're supposed to be the teacher. Maybe you're supposed to help these people learn the badness of racism. It is 2020. These people are in a generation before mine.
Yep.
Like before mine. Like, I am not here to teach. Why must I give not just free labor, but free emotional labor and trauma? Because people need to understand. I hope people hear this. If you're asking me, like, okay, well, why is George Floyd not a bad guy because he gave the $20? We're talking about something that has traumatized me yet again. So in order to help you for free, have to relive this trauma, not only like verbally, but also internally and emotionally, because you don't want to ask your white friends or Google or someone else. People have to remember that, like, it's personal. We're a whole ass group of people who are just oppressed all the fucking time. But I will tell you, you know what? People will ask more things about black people than they do about women's rights and trans rights. They feel it's okay to come to me, a black person, about that. But I never hear them asking the same questions about any of those things. And I'm just like, I fucking see y'all.
Okay. With that, let's go ahead and move on to the next phase, political outrage. Now, this is the phase where we want to start to blame things for why the tragedy happened. 4chan radicalized a teenager into violence. There's lack of gun control, mental health issues, violence in video games, tech companies not policing their platforms. So my question is, I have a couple questions about this. The first one is, connecting people has its downsides. The internet has made the world ever smaller, and it continues to get smaller. Has making the world smaller made it easier for bad people to do bad things?
I don't think it's that it's made the world stronger or like smaller that's made it. I think the acceptance of people being boldly out there. So like the card I picked was denial. And I think on this topic, we are in denial in some ways about the racists used to stay to themselves. Does anybody remember that? I lived in Las Vegas and Niagara Falls, and it was like they were not emboldened to just come the fuck out and do things except for in the South. I think social media gives everybody a little bit of keyboard tough guy syndrome. Where I feel more, yes, and they feel more powerful and more like, let me say what I think people should feel, what I think. And I know that because I do that. Let me write something because I want people to know what I'm thinking or how I'm feeling. So like we have to be like real with ourselves about that. Like, I'm just like, my brain's going in circles. I'm like, there's so many things I want to say. Okay, what was the second part? Oh, people are emboldened. Social media has just made it so that anyone can say anything that pops in their mind ever.
Yep.
So of course, people talking about all kinds of crazy stuff. They're like, it's on the internet. And 4chan being radicalizing people. I said to my friend today, I said, 4chan is still around?
Yeah.
And it's
Unfortunately,
radicalizing, it's radicalizing white dudes? Okay. But that is also a bigger topic because this has to do with a lot of society's ideas of men and women, but we're not even going there today.
So on the topic of 4chan, so yes, it's more that these social media platforms become echo chambers for those groups. So once those racists find each other, they now have a place where they can openly be racist with each other, and they'll just keep feeding each other's bullshit. So then you have places like 4chan or the alt-right YouTube rabbit hole. There's like a whole section of YouTube that is all about like alt-right shit and QAnon shit. And then the way that YouTube's algorithm works, once you click one of them videos, then YouTube's gonna recommend 4 more of them shits to you, and then suddenly you're in that rabbit hole. So at what point does the responsibility fall on tech companies to police their platforms on content that could radicalize people?
The card I picked was worry, because this is actually something I worry about all the time. So if I talk to you, like my best friend knows, I worry about that greatly. I don't know if everybody read Ready Player One, but like not the movie, but watch it or read it. I mean, tech companies are so responsible, in my opinion. Yeah, you can't always be like, oh, this company, Twitter has to be held accountable for XYZ. If it happened on their platform and they have the things in place that they say to do for monitoring and it's not happening, then yes. Because what is happening? We're just running wild on the internet on these social media platforms.
Yep. And it's crazy to me, like Twitch, like this thing that happened in Twitch. That's not even the first fucking time that's happened, where a fucking mass shooter went and like filmed themselves fucking killing people and streamed it on Twitch. So my shit thing is like, why the fuck did that happen twice? Why didn't they fix it the first time? Like, why the hell did that happen twice?
They are responsible, and in that situation, 100,000%, they're responsible because it happened. Like, okay, I will give 1% of understanding if it happened. You don't know why. It already happened, and now it's not that that Twitch is like, oh no, we're never gonna let this happen again. It's these fucking idiots that are like, oh, but we can use Twitch because they'll let us.
Yep.
And they're still providing a place for them. They cannot provide a place for them to do this, but because even 2 to 3 seconds of watching somebody do that is insane.
Yep, and people were watching too. Like I saw a screenshot. There was like 22 people just watching the shit. Like, what the fuck is there? Like, what? Like, I don't even know.
People are insane. We are crazy.
Yeah. So, I guess a different direction. Should social media platforms work with the police or the government to prevent tragedy? Like, say they have users on their platform that are planning a shooting, like in Discord, like this fucker like had a whole Discord channel, like he was telling people to, and he told his whole plan to. Discord could have seen his channel. They could have like monitored it. Like, should these platforms be working with police? Should they report to police when they see suspicious behavior?
Yeah, so the card I pulled was trust, because no, I don't trust any of these motherfuckers, especially now. Because you know what? When people are like, oh, the chemtrails and the thing, they're monitoring us. Bitches, we have cell phones. They're monitoring us. There are things listening to us. There are things looking at what we're doing all the time. They choose not to. Regardless of, they did this thing with the server to make it so that nobody can, I don't want to hear it. No, because I don't trust that shit right now. Absolutely not. Because I don't think it will be used for good. I will think it is be used for stupid shit that doesn't matter. especially depending on what state, who's in charge. I just see that ending up bad for like women who may need to use, say, Facebook groups if abortion is banned and then they need to go on a vacation.
Yep.
Like they're just going to use it for bad. And we know that they see it because I can't even type white man or white person on Facebook without getting some warning.
Yep.
Can't type marijuana or leaf or like it's insane. So it's like, no, they've already proven that they're there and they don't care.
Absolutely. So that's a good segue into our next, the next part of the political part. So another thing we see when the political outrage happens are the renewed calls for political action, yet again, from the politicians, things like gun control, police reform, or defunding the police or denouncing a government. What is the effect of these calls to action when the media cycle moves so quickly?
I don't even know anymore. It's like, I get it, and I do it, but like, as a millennial, any generation could say this, but as a millennial, I've seen so much shit happening. I've been voting since I was 18. When I was that young, I was like, oh my God, I get to vote. This is so dope. I think the way the government and society feels about it is so warped now. It's like people are just focusing on the wrong thing. I appreciate when people put their stance on, abortion and guns and killings and mental health and stuff. But we need to redirect that to where it counts. Local. I swear to God. I will see people tweeting at the president, and I'm like, do you know who runs your school board? Do you know who your assistant mayor is? Do you know who's in charge of that post office? Who's your state senators?
Yeah.
No, like the state senators, not Congress. Things like that. I think people don't realize that we have to start down there if we're gonna get anything done. And I don't even know now, because how crazy things are, like exactly how to even do that. But I just wish people would definitely would just do that more. I think that is like the biggest thing I could say on that.
I've noticed that the exact observation that like when politicians, they'll all come out with these renewed calls for action, but it always feels like the more power they have, the closer they are to the presidency, the faster they forget about them shits. It always feels like the ones that are closer and more local, even like the representatives like AOC, like she's actually fucking trying to actually fight for the long fight for this shit, but it feels like the higher you get, it's just like lip service.
Yeah, because money gets involved. It's the society is so fucking capitalistic. It's like, and money gets involved. And let me tell y'all something. If the Democratic Party was mostly black people, even like high up, we would have been like, you know what, you guys, we're about to fuck this filibuster up. Y'all fucking around. If our government's going to be whoever's in charge is going to change all this shit, then I guess that's what we do. One party, I saw this somewhere and I loved it. One party rules better than the other party votes. And it's like the Democrats can win some votes. We can overturn some seats. But then what are we doing? Don't we have the majority right now? Can we fuck some shit up? Stephanie, it's not that easy. I get that it's not that easy, but why is it?
Yeah.
For we the people, like we are so far, and that's another like whole ass classist conversation right there. We are so far at the bottom as just regular ass citizen people. That's why we have to do the step next to us. The next step to us is local.
Yeah.
And then state and county and stuff like that.
Yes. So let's move on to the treatment of the perpetrator. Like, so part of the political outrage, and this actually even social outrage, is pretty much the first thing we all notice when a shooting happens and the perpetrator is white. They almost always survive, and it's actually even happened earlier. Like when even in the shooting that happened a couple days ago, he was Hispanic, so he was killed, but he was a white. He probably would have gotten taken to fucking Burger King, like fucking Dylan Roof. What's up with that?
The first thing I said to my Elizabeth was, I was in a chat with her and my girlfriend Sam, shout out. And I was like, the shooter's dead. I bet you he's Mexican.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that disgusting to be right? And like nobody cares that is just fucking terrible. That I could just hear about a tragedy and make an assumption and a judgment and be right because of how the treatment is done. Did one of those motherfuckers back in the day get taken to Burger King or something?
Yeah, Dylan fucking Roof after
Dylan
he
Roof.
bombed a church and killed a bunch. It killed grandparents, like,
Yeah.
like, and they took it. They got him some fucking Burger King. And I saw somebody on Twitter try to fucking justify that shit. He was just like, actually, he was in interrogation for 12 hours and he didn't eat anything, so they brought him Burger King. It's like, fuck you, dude. He's alive. He's fucking alive. Like
And
that, you know?
Exactly. And that probably helps them want to continue doing this because, hey, if I do this and I kill some people, well, I'm white, so I'll probably live. Yeah, I'll be in jail, but this world sucks anyway. At least I got to murder some fucking black people or some
Yeah.
kids. I got to prove how powerful I am as a man. So I got to shoot up things and I was in charge and I ran things. Yeah, I'm in jail, but like, look how strong I am. And then these other fucking idiots would be like, whoa, that person's so fucking cool. I want to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, because you notice they're all young. They're like 18.
What the fuck are y'all doing? I was
Right?
mad. I was mad at when I was 18 because I went to prom and my boyfriend didn't want to have, or the guy I went with didn't want to have sex with me. That's what I was doing at 18.
Yeah.
Also, like, I was also like, I'm about to be 18. I can vote and buy cigarettes. Wait, I was not like, let me plan to just shoot up some people.
Yeah.
Let me write 180 about page manifesto. Who has that time? At 18, I would have never.
I wouldn't even write a fucking essay that fucking long at 18. Fuck that shit.
Yeah.
I'll take the F.
And I know people are gonna say, but some people like to be to themselves. Some people like to be quiet. Some people, don't like to do a lot of things. Maybe they're homebodies. This is beyond that. This is one of those negative aspects of social media so that people are alone and so they reach out to communities. Now that is the positive part because I've made so many awesome friends just online, but that can go sideways real quick.
Yeah.
And
It's
if
the
that
bad
person seems
communities.
cool, you want to be cool. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So to wrap up the political outrage part, these disagreements that happen, you see all the debates that occur, all of the gun control. It was this. He was black and he was white. Blah blah blah. All those debates that happen. Does politicizing the tragedy have to happen every time? Because it feels like it overshadows the tragedy itself. As soon as people start saying, "Oh man, this is why we need gun control," "Oh man, this is why blah 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 blah," does that kind of diminish the victims?
In a way, I think yes, but also sometimes this political stuff is just as helpful as thoughts and prayers. We as a country have a gun love that is weird to the point where people are constantly getting mass murdered. And then we start talking about all this change and all this stuff. All these organizations come out and they work their fucking asses off for nothing. What is that doing for the victims? One of the few times, and this is just for me personally, that I've seen political action change stuff was a lot of things having to do with children. and that was also like in the 80s and 90s. Stuff now, I'm just kind of like, we know this, but the good part of that is I do feel I'm one of those people that will sometimes I'll be like, I woke up and chose violence. I'll argue with some people online, sure. I do that a lot. Well, not a lot, but when I do that, it's so that the people who aren't able to speak up, don't know how to speak up, see it.
Yeah.
And they see that they're, not alone, and that maybe this is something they can do, or maybe this is something they can be a part of, or, again, that community thing. But nothing fucking happens. I'm so cynical about it now, and I hate it.
Yeah.
I think sometimes it helps us with elections, but then the people in power, like how many years have we been told we got to vote Democrat?
Yeah. And what the hell do they do? What the hell do they do?
Why do we still have student loans? Come on, guys. They don't even know how to be capitalists right. Get rid of people's student loans so we can spend money on bullshit, and you can continue to use credit scores as scams, and we can put money back into the fucking economy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm hella cynical about that shit.
Absolutely. So let's move on to the social and political activism that comes next. So in 2020, we mentioned 2020, we saw a massive wave of protests in the name of George Floyd. My question is, what is the threshold that a tragedy has to surpass to get a reaction like that? Because George Floyd was not the first unarmed black man in this country to get killed. He wasn't even the first one to be filmed while he was killed. So why did that video get that reaction, and why doesn't it happen every time?
One of the reasons that one got so much is because I think a lot more people got involved politically online after Fuckface was president. So I think around 2015, when we started hearing that he was running, we didn't care, and then we're like, oh shit, maybe he's real, and then he became president. I think a lot of people, like, that was oh shit, I gotta do some stuff. And so, I'm gonna say this, and it's probably not gonna sound great, but I just want to be real with everybody. When we first learn about something, we're like, everything, I need to know. Oh my God. Oh, this, oh, that, oh, absorb. We're very passionate about that. And that passion is emotional. So when this happened, there had been several other black people who had also been shot, killed, murdered for nothing. I think it's because it was like 4 years after, and there was a fed upness that was just like at the highest level it could be. And got older. Gen Z got a little bit older. And then the next generation. I'm a very generational person, says the person who does ancestral magic. But I think that was a thing too. The kids were like, no. So I think that's why it got such a big response. The threshold of what needs to happen, I don't know. Barely anybody got together when the Roe v. Wade thing came out.
Yeah.
I think some people are fucking exhausted too. Yeah. And there's like I feel like, I would say my 20s and stuff, I was still struggling with my identity and feeling involved in the black community. Again, that's a whole nother black nerd topic for another day.
Oh, yes.
But once I, got involved, I was like, okay, I'm going to speak up more. There have been people who have been doing this for me for so long. Now it's my time, and I'm able, I'm an extrovert. I like to talk, so I like the sound of my voice, all this stuff. Let me do this so that those people can sort of take a break, even though if you are different, you don't ever get a fucking break. You don't ever get a break. Yeah. But I think that is, my thoughts just left my head. No, come back. I'm just getting passionate because I'm like, everyone takes a turn because we're tired. And I think, like I said, the level of fed up it had been 4 years and the pandemic.
And the pandemic, yep.
I think it was just a bunch of stuff, and people were just like, I'm fucking angry.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And honestly, with even going with everybody in the pandemic, just getting online more in general, something else we've seen a lot in the last couple of years when these tragedies happen, hashtag trends, say her name, say his name. And something I saw on Instagram, Blackout Tuesday, was when, I guess on Tuesdays, people would like post a black square on their Instagram. Are these, I guess,
Ridiculous?
digital acts of, well, yeah, are these digital acts of social activism and social media, are they valid acts of or are they just virtue signaling or even clout chasing?
So hard for me, but I think it really is a mixture of all of that, because I feel like I've learned so much in life being an extrovert and having introverted friends, and how they do things differently. And even during like the George Floyd stuff and whatnot, I was having some white friends who were like losing family and like doing this, so I was trying to help them like cope with that. And so my thought just went out of my head. Ask the question one more time.
Is it? Yeah.
Blackout Tuesday, whatever that shit was. Sure. Like, it does not matter. People were getting up in arms about Aunt Jemima. Someone posted in my fucking group here.
Yeah.
Aunt Jemima was Nancy Green, and they got rid of her. Black people do not give a shit about what's happening with the fucking syrup bottle.
Thank you.
When I was a little kid, I was like, oh, she looks like Mammy, and Mammy was a slave. Cool. Give me my fucking pancakes. Like, we don't care. That is performative shit. Pride's coming up. I love it. Why? Because I love fucking rainbows.
Yes.
And I'm queer as fuck. But also, I see who's putting the hashtags out.
Yeah.
And then I see what they do for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And then when things actually come to their attention, how do they handle that situation? Because I'd be like, hold on, Black Lives Matter. Let's go back to this where you are not letting these people unionize and they're mostly black. Don't Black Lives Matter?
Yep. That's a good point. You say that too. Like when it comes to their attention, they knew that Aunt Jemima would look like a damn mammy for the last 100 years, but now they're gonna change it. Like, come on. Like, there was like hella episodes of TV shows where they had blackface or something, and now those episodes are like discontinued. Why'd they air the episode 20 years ago? Why'd they air it anyway? They knew blackface was bad. The fuck? Like, it doesn't make a lick of sense to me.
And then when they try, I don't believe them. Hence, Creamalicious and Walmart's Juneteenth ice cream.
I heard about that.
Nobody asked for Juneteenth ice cream, Walmart.
Yep. Y'all heard about, for those that don't know, there's a black-owned brand called Creamalicious that makes like Southern and blackified ice cream flavors. And Walmart fucking bit off of their Juneteenth flavor, like totally fucking ripped off their Juneteenth flavor. And I heard it was bad too. I heard it didn't even taste good. So fuck them for that.
Yeah, I think she had like a red velvet.
Like cheesecake or something like that.
Yeah, so then they copied that flavor with other stuff. Then they put on stripes. I don't know if you're noticing this, these rainbows that are more tinted, like brown and like I
want to say it's supposed to be like kente cloth, but like
oh my god, it probably is. No. Do you remember, and I know they were given to them from black people, when the senators were wearing the fucking kente cloth?
Oh, God, no. I remember that shit. Nancy Pelosi in a fucking kente cloth, kneeling down and putting her fists up. I'm like, oh, my God, is this real? This is not a real picture.
Nancy, did you even know what that was before someone told you? Girl, you look ridiculous.
That picture lives in my head rent fucking free.
This? Oh my god. And like, you remember they did that song during COVID, all the
celebrities, Let It Be. Let It Be. That was so cringe.
Why
Oh my
are
god.
y'all doing this shit? Nobody
No,
asked you.
Imagine. It wasn't Let It Be. It was Imagine. Imagine all the
Y'all had to
people.
text each other or each other's agents to do this and do this. Y'all spend y'all time getting more involved in shit that actually matters. Like, oh, I don't know,
Exactly.
gun mobs. Everything needs money. Everything needs money. You guys have money. You entertain us. We give you money.
Yeah.
Awesome. But like, we see these people in a certain way, and things like they gotta stop.
Hmm.
That's why I think I will always stay on Twitter, because I find on Twitter, if it's an echo chamber, that's fine. People say a lot of negative things about echo chambers, but sometimes for my mental health, I need that echo chamber.
Yeah.
I need people to agree with me,
You need to know
and
that there's
who
people in the world that are not fucking evil.
literally what I was about to say next. I need to know that there are people who are not fucking terrible.
Yes. Alrighty. Let's move on to the bitterness aspect of all of this. So, like, as time goes on, people start to move on. Or, I mean, in this case, we only got about a week to grieve for Buffalo, and another shooting just happened. We didn't even get a chance to give that the time it
Nope.
deserved.
Nope.
So the tragedy stops trending, but the hurt is still there for the families. So even though the whole world has moved on to the new tragedy, the families of Buffalo are still grieving. They probably haven't even had their damn funerals yet, you know? And it feels
Yeah.
like nothing changes, you know? And it just keeps going. Are we numb to it?
Yeah. Yeah. I think in a way we are. And that brings me back to that comment about how we're different. We need to figure out those differences to make people understand. Like, I get really fucking annoyed when people say, you have a mom, what would you feel like? You have a kid, what would you feel like? I get annoyed because people lack empathy, and that pisses me off. But I also know that we need to do that because people don't understand things unless you put them and something they care about into the situation so that their fucking empathy treasure chest can get unlocked or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the more this keeps happening, I don't know about numb, but definitely cynical as fuck. Like I said, oh, the shooter's dead. He's probably Mexican.
Yeah.
Isn't that gross?
Yeah.
Shouldn't I be like, oh my God?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was, but I also knew
Yeah.
that he was not white. So I think it's a little bit of numb. I think it's a little bit of cynicism. And it's also, some of it's helplessness too.
Yeah.
Because like how we were talking about classism and how we're on the very bottom. What can we do? Y'all tell us to vote and we do. Yeah, we tell you what we need. And that happens and it gets done, but nothing fucking changes. And I tell people all the time, I said, y'all want change? Y'all want real change? Especially during 2020. I was like, I don't think people are genuinely understanding that all this time we've been watching those other countries going through things where they have to riot and die and like get in the streets and fight. And I think some people understood that a little bit more in 2020, but a lot of change does not come without violence. And that sucks, but it's kind of true.
Do you think that because the tragedies just are so frequent, and so everything in our social media waves are so negative all the time, that we never really have that same viral effect on when you know, like there's people in the background that are doing a real long-term effort to actually make change, to make it so this shit can stop happening, but they don't get that same viralness, they don't get those same clicks when things happen for them. Do you think that's, what do you think about that?
Oh, I get it. I know about Moms Demand Action from the podcast that I listen to, Crooked Media, shout out. And just what I see on Twitter. And that's why Twitter is so important. But because I think that's where the little guys are able to be a little bit louder. Because all it takes is a couple of retweets. All it takes is maybe a hashtag or something to get more information out. But I don't know. It feels hopeless. Like, what are we supposed to do? We're numb to it. We are like, there's so many organizations that are doing stuff on a constant basis. And it's like, how are we don't even know about half of them, but also what can we do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So where do we go from here to wrap it up? Like, let's end on a positive note. Can social media and technology be a good thing? Can we leverage this media cycle the way that it happens every time for good somehow?
Think we can, but I think it's gonna take a lot of people with money to
Not
start it.
Elon Musk.
Not that motherfucker. And see, that's the thing. And I think the way this is going to happen is the change of society in general. We can do gun laws, and we absolutely should. We don't have a universal background check, and that's fucking ridiculous. But once we get these laws fixed, we need to, as a society, stop treating men and boys a certain way. I work with little kids, 0 to 3, who have developmental delays. I teach them how to walk and talk and just be a tiny little human and show their families how to do it. Do you know that most kids, when they enter school age, boys score the lowest or have the least development in the social emotional category? We're starting them as a society in this little way. When if they get a certain age, they have to be done a certain way. They have to like be a certain way. And then their fathers instill that in them because it was instilled in them, because that person, it was instilled in them. Yeah. As a society, we've got to change the way that we view women, because we are treating them like, hey, you're a woman, you're all powerful and all great. So also do everything and also suffer if we us men don't like it. We need to change the way we see people in our society and how we treat them. And unfortunately, I don't know if empathy can be learned.
Yeah.
Maybe. But that's a huge thing too. We're such a selfish group of people. And I think a lot of that too has to do with society and how we're raised. Because I'm Black. It takes a village. I know all my neighbors over here, the kids. I had an emergency. My dog's got in a fight. I literally opened my door and screamed that I needed help, and my neighbors came.
Yes.
That's awesome. And I get that because I'm in a small town. What I would have loved and how it would have changed my life if I would have had that were other places. But as I got older, I realized I did, but it was with my friends. And that's when you do your chosen family.
Yes.
So there's like all these different life lessons and ways to cope and how we treat each other that happens. But it needs to be fixed. It needs to be fixed. We are doing such a disservice to each other because some of us don't want to change the way in which we view each other and how we solve problems. I'm not about to be like, oh, we need to be, reaching across the aisle. Fuck that side of the aisle. They want me to not be able to have abortions. And they don't want to do, stricter gun laws. I don't need to reach across the aisle. What needs to happen is we need to start actively doing things to let these people know that their ideals and stuff do not matter. They are terrible. We don't want that. But it's like we have all the tools to do it. We have social media. We have gatherings. We have these rallies and protests. It's just we gotta all do it more. I see this in a world where, maybe because I read a lot of dystopian YA stuff, but we have to have communities. Like, if there's a protest, if stuff happens and women can't get abortions legally, we have to be like, hey, this person has a good car with gas mileage, they can go pick people up.
Yes.
While this other person is going to be the babysitter and watch all the kids. So these 3 other people can go protest while the other person earns money for the family. And then we just switch around and do it again. We can do that. We just have to be better with each other and understand how to be families and communities. Creating community is like my number one thing. I created an organization called Vagina. back in 2010. Very awesome girls into nerdy activity.
Yes.
Yeah, girls 18 and up to empower themselves and the community to use their geekiness for charity and positive things. And we created
Yes.
some good ass communities in Vegas and Phoenix. Like, we have raised money, we have brought people together, and the people that we brought together are just fucking nerds. And some
Love
of them
it.
have really great hearts and they want to help and they don't know how. But if we don't try to do these things in our own little sphere, not all of us are extrovert ass Stephanie. But there's one. There's one in your community somewhere. That's cool. Not me, because, you know. But we got to get together in ways and show these people, no. Because, hot take, racism isn't going away. But it can be to where the majority of the world understands that it's wrong and it's not accepted.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for coming on the show tonight. This was a heavy ass topic, but it is it's fascinating. It's a really fascinating discussion. You know, technology and social media dominate our lives, and they really have fundamentally changed the way that we interact with each other and react to tragedy. So thank you for joining us. Thank everybody for tuning in. This episode will be released on all major platforms on Friday, which is tomorrow. My name is Ngozi Mai, and this has been Did Y'all See That? I hope to see you next time. All right, y'all. Bye.